Hello, 22 Tony here, with my latest discussion on collecting vintage and antique ammo. Those of you that saw my last video know that I was on location at the Pennsylvania Cartridge and Collector Show in Morgantown. And you probably noticed that I came across a box of Rimfire cartridges that I was pretty impressed by. There was a huge variety of different calibers and configurations. Well, I couldn't resist. I went back after I was done taping and I bought the whole box. So as I was going through the box, I found, huge variety of 22 rimfires you'd expect, but then I found some other cartridges that many of you will never get a chance to see other than maybe on the internet. Now, I wanted to show some of them to you today, and I'm not going to go into a huge detail on the history of these cartridges, just due to the space constraints. I just don't have the time to do so. And also, like all my videos, I really want you to do your own research. I want you to check into them yourself. But I do want to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what I was lucky enough to find. Well, the first thing, something I've never seen before, Rimfire paper shotgun shells. The first one I have here is a 22 rimfire shot shell, and next we've got a 9mm rimfire shot shell. I also in the same box had a 9mm brass shot shell. So these are things you're not going to find every day. Certainly interesting just to see a shotgun shell 22 caliber. We've seen the 22 shot shells, but a paper shotgun shell was just really interesting to me. Okay, well then after the shot shells, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other cartridges. Now these aren't particularly old cartridges. In fact, they've only been around a few years. One of my previous videos we talked a little bit about the 17 HMR. Well, I've got its little baby brother, the 17 HM2. So the HMR is a neck down 22 Magnum, where the HM2 is the 22 Stinger cartridge neck down to 17 caliber. So again, these aren't particularly rare. These are just something that I thought would be interesting that you may not have seen. Now we're all familiar with the 22 short, long rifle, CB, BB, etc. But you may not have ever seen a 22 proof load. Again, not particularly rare, but this is a 22 long rifle proof load. These are used for gun manufacturers to test barrels. My understanding is they're hot loaded, and again, they're to test the strength of the barrel. And of course, we've got the 22 auto, and we've discussed that on other videos. I'm not going to go into that. And of course, you'd expect to see the 25 rimfire. Okay, but then the next thing I have that you've probably heard of, but you may have never seen, is the 25 Stevens. This was produced by the J. Stevens Company somewhere right around 1900. There's a little bit of discussion the exact date it was introduced. And it ran up to just before World War II. So these were produced up to about 1942. Okay, then the next thing I want to show you is something that extremely rare. You're not going to find these anywhere. And you've probably never heard of it, and I want you to Google it or Yahoo it or whatever you want to do. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of detail because these are just amazingly rare. This is a 267 Remington. It was introduced right around 1936, and depending on who you ask, there were a few hundred rifles made for this, up to maybe 1,000 rifles made that would shoot this cartridge. It failed, and they just don't exist. So this is something you're not going to see, definitely at a gun show, certainly not your local flea market. You may find one at a cartridge show here and there, but I was pretty impressed by that cartridge. Okay, I've also got your typical 30 rimfire, not real common, but interesting. And then I've got a 310 Remington Skeet. So we're going to get that one out of here. 310 Remington Skeet. That's another shotgun cartridge. It's all brass, but it is designed for skeet shooting. My understanding is it was designed for skeet shooting on small ranges with smaller than normal targets. And it's introduced right around 1960 is my understanding. And again, pretty uncommon, even though it's not as old as some of the other cartridges. It's an uncommon cartridge to have. Okay, then we're going to go into the, of course, the 32 family. You can't have a discussion on rimfire cartridges without talking 32. So we got 32, short, long, and extra long. So again, these are 32 shorts and long are very common. The extra long you don't see very often, but not as amazing as some of the other things I've found. At least not to me. I still think they're interesting. Okay. Next thing I wanted to show you was a 38 extra long. Now we've all heard of 38 rimfire, but 38 extra long is a pretty interesting cartridge. And then I also have another 38 caliber, a 38 caliber shot. Again, 38 caliber rimfire shot. Okay, then going a little bit larger, I've got 44 long. Then again, we're all familiar with 44 rimfire. But how about a 46 caliber extra long rimfire? Now, the 46 caliber extra long was introduced shortly after the Civil War, and was produced up until right around the time of World War I. So it did have a pretty good span there, but again, obsolete for quite a few years. Okay, then I've got getting a little bit larger cartridges here. We've got a 41 Swiss. Okay. Then what I'd like to talk about, and when we talk about large caliber rimfire cartridges, we're always talking about the Spencer rifle and the Spencer carbine. This was the original Spencer, the 5656 Spencer. This was introduced just prior to the Civil War, and they were actually used Battle of Gettysburg. Some of Custer's men had Spencer rifles. So the Spencer rifle was used during the Civil War. I know we all think about cap and ball when we talk Civil War, but there were actual cartridges being used at that time. So this, again, this is the 5656 Spencer, and they were used during the Civil War. Then after the war, there were some other Spencer cartridges produced. I have a 5646 here, and there were a few others as well. So these are my larger caliber rimfires, but I wanted to show just a couple of other things here before I go for the day. These are the tiniest rimfires you're going to find. Now, I've just started doing some research on these, and I'll try to get you a picture of them if I can here. This, I believe, is a 4mm rimfire. It is a tiny, tiny cartridge. And next to it, I'm just really not sure what that is. I can't find a picture of it on the internet. I thought possibly 2.34mm, but the pictures I have of that, it's a straight cartridge, and this is clearly neck down. I don't know what this is. If you do know, please post a comment and let the rest of us know. I spent not a lot of time, and I will spend more time. I'm definitely probably going to spend a lot more time on those two little tiny cartridges when I'm done here. But I probably spent 15-20 minutes at least looking for this one particular cartridge, and just couldn't find it. I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere, but hopefully one of you knows what it is and you can tell me. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep doing my research. But it's just real interesting to put that next to the Spencer cartridge and look at the differences in rimfire cartridges that are available. Well, I'm going to let it go at there. Like I said, I didn't go into a lot of the history on most of these cartridges. There's a huge amount of history out there on Rimfire cartridges. I hope this piqued your interest. I hope you go out and do a little bit of research on your own. And hopefully one day you're going to come across a stash like this of some absolutely amazing Rimfire cartridges. So thanks for watching. Please share, and hope you enjoyed again. Have a good day, everybody.